Today's video, we're going to go over the second installment of the flow series. This is kind of a 3-in-1 one, so you're going to get 3 flows in one here. This is one of the kneeling versions of the flow, so there's several benefits to a kneeling version. First of all, in case you're injured or something, that definitely helps. Secondly, by having the knees bent, it really does get the glutes involved a little bit more, and it opens up your hips a little bit more, so you're really forced to have to use those obliques and those adductors a lot more in the movement. Before we get started though, I really want to go over an alternative way to attach the band, and the reason you would do the second way, so there's 2 main ways to attach bands. The first one is how I showed previously, where you loop the band around itself, as shown. Very simple. The second way that I'm going to show you, and there's several reasons to do this. If you need to have 2 arms working at once that need to be separated, or if you have a limitation on the band. So if the band is too thin for the movement you want to do and the band stretches too easily, one way you can do it is to just go right in the middle of the band and then put them together, and you can actually put one hand through both sides of the bands, which effectively, it's a little bit harder to grip, but effectively doubles the resistance of the band. So you can get a lot more use out of one band, and it helps to deal with some of those limitations. Now, in the exercise I'm gonna be going over today, or the movement I'm gonna do today, we're a little bit limited because our cable chop machine is a very expensive robotic machine, and the computer system is not working today. So we went with our second very expensive robotic machine, whereas for this purpose, just a normal cable sack would probably serve our interest much better. But you know, you gotta adapt and overcome, right? So it still works. It would just maybe be a little bit better if the pull angle was a little bit higher, because it would stretch you from that kneeling position a little bit better. But there are some benefits to having more of a horizontal pull too, which I can discuss during the movement. So I'm gonna get right to it. Hope you guys enjoy. Remember to leave comments about what you wanna name it, and any questions you might have that I can address later. Okay, so we're gonna go over the setup to the second flow option, the kneeling version, and we're gonna choose the doubled over variation right here instead of the looped around itself. So I'm gonna use my right hand is gonna be my dominant hand. I'm gonna hold this here, put my entire hand through, and then I'm gonna grab a hold of the band itself. You can take your other hand and you're gonna place it right here on top of this hand right here. You can put it other places. I feel like this placement both helps me grip it and it gives me the best position to which I can use this hand to help me out. And then I'm gonna take a knee with my far side knee down, and I'm gonna take this knee, I'm gonna put it out for a lot of leverage. You're gonna see a lot of similarities between these flows. And next, I'm gonna take this foot, just like the other flow, I'm gonna rotate it in a little bit to give me some leverage to push. I'm gonna let this stretch me out. I'm gonna have the hand here for support. I'm gonna lean away from the angle of pull. Due to the nature of the setup, this is pulling me a little bit more horizontally. In a gym, you'd want the high setting, so it kind of pulls you to the side, but also up. But this will work just fine, and it does give me a little bit more resistance on this plane, so I have to dig a little bit harder with this leg. So there's a little bit of benefit to this as well. So I'm gonna grab the other hand here, and what I'm gonna do is lean away from it. I'm gonna start with a lot of pull from this side, because this side is in a weak position right now. Pull from this side and start to rotate. When I get past this knee here, I'm gonna start to smoothly transition from mostly pulling with this arm to about evenly pulling with both. And then when I get to my midline, that is when this close side arm really takes over, and I finish with a hard push with this side. And then on the way back, kind of the opposite. I resist mostly with the left hand here, start to transition, and by the time I get to here, it's mostly this arm doing the work here. So you're using the limb and the side of your body that's in the strongest position at any one time, and you're making sure that you transition between those fluidly. So you're practicing to be an athlete. Here, start to pull, transition, finish strong, hold the contraction. Back fluidly. Now when you go back, another good thing to do is, especially if it's pulling you up and you can really feel it, is you wanna sink down into the pull. All right, so you're gonna sink your butt back and sink this shoulder closer to the ground. If it's pulling up, you'll really feel that stretch. Now, as I attack here with this arm, I also squeeze this glute and extend this hip forward like that. So it's same setup, same grip, same body position, probably the same load. If you went pretty heavy for that first load though, you might have to back off on the weight just a little bit for this one. So what you're gonna do here is grab it the same way, start with the same pull. Now I stay in that tall kneeling position the entire time. I start to rotate here, pull. When I get in position, I help out. I finish even with my midline, I hold the squeeze, and then I kind of lean away from it as it pulls me back. Squeeze, lean away. See that I'm really using this leg for leverage, digging into the ground, using it, squeezing, holding the pull. So I get asked all the time, how do I incorporate the flows into my workouts? And that's a great question. There's no one way you have to do it. So, you can do it in between your main lifts. You can do it at the end of your workout. You can do it on your off days. How I design the flows to be used, like I said, it's not the way you have to do them because they're a fairly safe exercise you can incorporate anywhere. How I designed them to be used is a very active warm-up before my heavier, more athletic type movements. So it combines a lot of different factors in one, but it can be done in fairly slow speed, gets the entire body ready to move and ready to move as a unit and sequence properly. So the reason I call them flows, I also call them sequence movements, is because the body doesn't move every joint segment at once. It tends to sequence the limbs in an order that tends to be the most effective way to produce an athletic result. And that sequencing has commonalities across most sports. So how I do them, I have a little saying that I like to go by that helps me remember things, is slow. That is the isometric holds and the pulsing that I've talked about before when you get to the gym, especially if you have joint pain. And then flow, and then you go into go, which is like your plyometrics, your compound power movements, things like that. That is usually the meat of the workout, the go movements. After that, it's the grow. So what I mean by that is the very heavy pushing things, which can be done on machines for strength and hypertrophy. And then I finish with the show. So it kind of goes slow, flow, go, grow, show. So the show is like, your tricep push downs, your curls, things you don't need, but they do help, and they, they're for more aesthetic purposes. So normally after I get some joint prep going on, if I'm really in pain, I will hit my flows up second. I'll normally do 2 to 3 sets of just one flow movement per workout. It normally takes about 5 to 10 minutes, and then I'm on to the go. So at the beginning of the YouTube video, I said we'd do 3 variations. We only did 2. So the third one is from the same position, and I will get to that next time. They're very similar, but they have very distinct aspects, so I think we should break that in 2. I just tend to do those more as one flow per workout. So please, comment with the names that you want to name those things, and also I intend to do a series of these to get to each flow movement first, hopefully posting about 2 a week. So in a month or 2, you guys will have an educational video on each of my 13 main flows. After that, we're going to go on to other topics like the foundation of mass method, basic speed introduction, things like that. So there's a lot more exercise that use bands, and we're going to have to go over those too. Hope you guys have a good one. Thanks. But also, I consider that one flow movement, but it's 2 very distinct movements. So when it comes to naming, it's kind of up to you guys. If y'all want to name it 2,